Well, hello everybody, and welcome back to another great episode of the Van Buren Variety Show. I am Bob Van Buren, your host, and as always, glad to see all my subscribers and audience here tonight for the live show. But in case you don't see it live, that's okay. Just watch it whenever you can. I'm also going to welcome our newcomers to the show tonight. If this is your first time, again, glad you're here. What's the show about? Well, let me tell you. The key word here is variety. Every week, I have an individual guest to talk about an interesting topic. It could be the profession, it might be a hobby, it might be a how to segment, it might be some musical entertainment, just our general interest. You never know what the topic will be and what it's about. So, for the newcomers, if you like what you see tonight, or if this is maybe the second or third time you've come back, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. By hitting the subscribe button to this show, you get updates on future guests and future topics. So make sure you hit that subscribe button. Really appreciate that. And if you like tonight's guest and you like tonight's topic, don't just watch it and go away. If you really like it, hit that like button. There's a like button there somewhere, either on your phone or your computer, and show the guest tonight that you really did like the presentation and that you liked what the information that you got. So, and if you're not watching this show live, if you're watching this show days, weeks, or months after the fact, you can still leave a comment. So if you have a question for our guest tonight, whether it be much later after the show is over, and leave the comment, and I'll make sure that she sees it, and we'll get that to her as soon as possible. So again, welcome to my subscribers, audience, and newcomers. Glad you're all here. It's been a really, really great ride. This is episode 83, and I couldn't be more proud of the guests that we've had here, and especially you, my audience. So thank you for sticking by, and hope you've learned a lot that I have in these past 83 episodes, and there'll be more to come for sure. Hope you've had a great week so far. I had an interesting weekend. I got to meet with fellow YouTubers over the weekend. I got to share information with them, different interests, and so it was a very, very profitable and very, very successful weekend. I enjoyed talking to different people about their interest, and I dropped my card a little bit to some people. So I might be appearing on other YouTube shows to promote this show. So in case that happens, I'll make sure I'll leave an alert out there and let you know what channel that I'm going to be appearing on as not the host, but as the guest. And hopefully we can get some more people here to join us on the Van Buren Variety Show. And all the people that I met over the weekend were great people. I had some wonderful contacts. And so that really, really helps to kind of get all the family together. So that was my weekend, and it was very, very, very successful. Thank you. But now I had a great weekend, but we all have problems that we're dealing with, whether that be health problems, whether that be a financial difficulty. Maybe we're experiencing loss. For example, the loss of a job, suddenly losing a job, the loss of a loved one, just stress factors, just competing in business. We have this, rat race, dog eat dog, where some of us are dealing with anger. Some of us it's hard to forgive someone that's wronged you or said something rude to you, that's really hurt you. I know forgiveness is something that we all struggle with. We all have to do it, but it's really hard. And I'm gonna say a personal confession. Yeah, it's hard for me when someone's really, really let you down and really lied to you. But that if you are struggling with that, like I am, and a lot of people are, tonight's guest may give you some good advice on how to deal with some of that and see some success stories. So the whole title tonight is called Overcoming Adversity. And I could not have a better guest tonight to talk about this. So let me bring her on right now. Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to introduce you to Dr. Stephanie Wilson-Coleman, author, counselor, and she's worn many hats over the years in this topic. So Stephanie, welcome to the Van Buren Variety Show.
Thank you for having me. I am excited to be here as always. I'm excited to remind people that life is just too short to drink cheap champagne.
And we will be talking about that, ladies and gentlemen. She said life is too short to drink cheap champagne. Now, there's some symbolism in there which we'll talk about.
Right.
So, Stephanie, when we talk about overcoming adversity, can you put that kind of in a basket for us? Well, how would you describe overcoming adversity?
So adversity is when we face things that we didn't expect to happen or things that derail the process that we expected to make.
Mm-hmm.
Those things, I believe, actually come to teach us valuable lessons. So once we are able to get past the adversity and overcome the adversity, then we're able to make the changes in our life that we were meant to make.
I see. Now, there's all kinds. I described a few things at the beginning of the show. Whether you've lost a family member, lost a job, and here's the biggest one: the stress. We all feel the stress, the anger, and the unforgiveness. So, how do you? We'll just kind of take one thing at a time. We've all had bad things happen to us, where somebody has done something to us, where they've lied to us. I mean, a relationship that fell apart. A manager who treated you bad. So, and I'm speaking, I guess I would confess, I deal with that sometimes. It's really hard to forgive someone, even when they're not sorry. So what do you say to someone or anybody that's struggling with forgiveness or has this unforgiveness in their heart?
Now, forgiveness is one of the techniques I use to change my life. So imagine the things that have happened to you that you couldn't forgive. And then imagine your first husband leaving, taking all of the money out of the bank account, stealing the money from the sale of the house, okay, and all of that. And then you got to forgive all of that. And then losing your job on top of that. So I learned that forgiveness is necessary. Unforgiveness will keep you stuck exactly where you are. And what we think about and focus on is what we create. So if you are busy unforgiving and being stuck in that moment, you're going to create more and more instances where you're going to be stuck and you're not going to be able to move forward. The one thing about forgiveness is people think that forgiveness means you're letting the other person off the hook.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
You are not letting the other person off the hook. You are letting yourself off the hook so you can move forward. That other person is creating instances and things that they're going to have to atone for or deal with later in life. We just won't necessarily be there to see it. And I think that's why we don't forgive, is because we want to stay there and see that person suffer.
They're constantly being guilty.
That's right. They're guilty. And we've got to stay there and see that they're punished. That is not our job. Mm-hmm. Our job is simply to learn the lessons that we were supposed to learn, to admit our part in it, and forget the other part, and then move on. As we were talking earlier, unforgiveness is like you eating rat poison and expecting the rat to die. And it's been proven that unforgiveness causes all kinds of health problems. So if you want to immediately improve your health and increase your happiness by about 7% and your income because you're happy, forgiveness is what you need to do. You start off easily, though. That's the next question that usually comes. How do you start? So I'll tell you.
Please, yes. This is great. I'm eating this up. I'm taking your advice right now.
It's one of the things that I joke about a lot. So,
okay.
My ex-husband left, stole all of the money out of the bank. The house sold, stole all that money, and somehow I was supposed to forgive. So I literally start saying, okay, I forgive him if he doesn't get hit by a car. I forgive him if the building doesn't fall on it, right? I literally had to start there. And I did that every day. And eventually you get to the place to where you can forgive. Now, if you just can't forgive right now, ask yourself, when will I be able to forgive this person? And you will actually get an answer from your soul that'll say maybe in 30 days or 6 weeks. So just put it on your calendar and come back in 30 days or come back in 6 weeks and forgive the person. But in the meantime, forgive the person with whatever techniques that you use. And just a simple "I forgive you" will work. You don't make it hard. Don't make it any
Mm-hmm.
harder than it is. Just a simple "I forgive you." And every time it comes up, say, "Oh no, I'm not thinking about that. I forgive you for that." They don't get off the hook. You're getting off the hook.
Oh, I like that. And I like what you said earlier, and I want to stress this to my audience watching. Uh, you said unforgiveness is like eating rat poison, but
Hmm.
hoping the rat will die.
Exactly.
That could be not, there's not a better example of
Right.
that.
And we never know what that other person is experiencing. See, we look at them and we think, oh, they're having a wonderful life, but we don't know. And so just forgive it, move to the next experience, because until you forgive, you won't be able to attract that next relationship or the better job, because unforgiveness itself carries an energy and people can feel it coming. And no one wants to be around someone that has that negative energy.
All the time. Yeah, that just drains the energy out of the
Yeah, no,
room.
out of the room, it does.
Well, we got some interesting comments from our live, the people that's watching this live. So let me bring up some comments, Stephanie.
Okay.
Gary says, "What doesn't kill us makes us stronger." You agree?
I
Or no?
agree to a point,
Okay.
because it depends upon what you learned from the lesson.
Okay.
And that's incredibly important. So at some point, you do have to go back and look at what you learned. Some people don't stop to learn the lesson. So
I
they do
see.
forgive, but they don't stop to learn the lesson. So they repeat it again
I
sometimes later
see.
in life, and then they've got to go back again. So be sure you stop to learn the lesson. In relationships, I often tell my clients to write down what you learned about yourself, what
Lessons
you're willing
learned.
to lesson learns, what you're willing to tolerate, what you're not willing to tolerate. And how long, be honest, how long did you stay in that relationship or in that friendship after you really knew it was time to leave? So
You
be
had to break
honest.
it. Yeah.
Yeah. Be honest in the part that you played. Until you can identify that, you just keep repeating it until you learn the lesson.
Absolutely. And regarding, we got a lot of good comments about this topic here. Everybody can relate, I think.
Right.
Uh,
Yes.
Regarding unforgiveness, Gene Hudson says it's hard, but man, you can't give anyone the power to steal your peace.
That's true. You cannot. And that's what you're doing when you're living in an unforgiving state. And when you're in an unforgiving state, you're also repelling all of the good that can happen too. So not only are they stealing your peace, they're stealing your prosperity, they're stealing your happiness, they're stealing your money, they're stealing everything from you. They are winning. And all you can do is think about them, so they're even stealing your time.
I've heard that. They say the more you unforgive, you're allowing that person to live rent free in
Free.
your
Your
mind.
mind. Yes.
And they don't even know it.
They have no idea you're hurt.
Now, this kind of goes a little bit off of unforgiveness, but we have a question from the audience, which is a good question because it's all about overcoming adversity. Tex wants to know, what's the best way to deal with narcissism? Good question, Tex. Can you give us some advice on that, Stephanie?
So you deal with it about the same way that you deal with other things. First, you realize that is that person's issue. You cannot fix another person. You're responsible for fixing yourself. So I always say, when people are in situations or relationships where the other person is a narcissist, or just not a good person for you, you are to leave the relationship. You do whatever you need to do to leave the relationship. Now, depending upon if the relationship is an abusive relationship or not, you may need some help to leave that relationship. But seek the help that you need so that you can end that relationship. You are not going to be able to teach a narcissist how to treat you, because they know best of what they want to do, and they have to have all the power. So
And
the best way you don't deal with it, you leave it.
right, and narcissism. I mean, and I've dealt with narcissists, and they are for lack of a better word, they're set in their ways.
Yes.
And they don't even see, the problems that they're doing, the
Right.
damage that they're doing. And, well, actually, you just mentioned that, and Gene had a question right before you said your last statement. And I think the answer now is yes. Gene's asking, it is okay to move on and leave people who are toxic for you in your past? I would say you just answered that question, yes.
It is okay to leave. If you don't leave, then it's damaging you, your self-esteem, how you feel about yourself, what you will be able to accomplish. And then when you're in a relationship with negative people, you have to remember, people can make you negative quicker than you can make them positive. So you've got to leave the relationship.
I like that.
Right. And when you leave the relationship, when you leave, you do your lessons learned too. What did you learn about the relationships? What signs did you overlook? Because a lot of times before we're in a full-fledged committed relationships, there are signs. But sometimes we think we can handle them, and sometimes we think we can change the person. You can't change other people. You can just change yourself.
How would you, and I know, but maybe some people, even years before, I'd heard the word narcissist and narcissism, and, I'd heard it, but I know now from experience, unfortunately. So how would you describe a person who is narcissist or narcissism overall?
So narcissism can show up in a lot of different ways, because people who are narcissistic have a way,
tongue tangler,
a way of making you feel that you just need them and they're the best thing that ever happened. So the one thing you have to look at is, what do I need? What neediness am I displaying? Because they will take advantage of that. And unfortunately for regular people, one narcissist is different than the other narcissist. So you think that you're not, so we think we can put our finger on it. It's kind of like serial killers. You think you just can put your finger on it and you know that that's the one right there, right? But it's not. But you know deep inside when something's not going right for you. And anytime someone doesn't value your opinion, your emotions, even your career or what you're trying to accomplish, that is not the right person for you. And they don't have to be a narcissist to just be a plain bad person for you.
Sure. And Chad, I'll show you a comment from Chad. He said he's saying it's all about them. It's their way or the highway. Would you agree?
Pretty much, but you have to remember they're masters at manipulating how you feel. So at some point in the relationship, you will feel like you're getting everything that you need until you don't feel like that. So you've got to be really careful about that. So start looking early on. Get the symptoms and signs and signals early in the relationship.
For sure.
We discount those. But no, people are who people are, and they will show you who they are better than they tell you. And as Maya Angelou says, when somebody shows you who they are, you need to leave. Believe them and leave.
Sure. Well, Stephanie, I want to talk about your expertise. We talked kind of some of the things that that you've counseled people on, like unforgiveness, and now we're talking about narcissism. But you have so many workshops and seminars, and you have leadership training, and you do coaching. So, kind of tell us about your career overall.
So, my career overall started. I was just an accountant. I love numbers, and
calculating.
I like calculating, and people who know me say I like numbers more than most people that I know. Because I can count on 1 and 1 being 2. Okay.
Sure. Absolutely.
I can count on that, right? So, and I like to read too, and somehow I was able to mesh those together and come up with being able to work well with a lot of different people and a lot of different personalities. But I like people and all of the personalities and all the goodness and messiness they come with. I just think it's pretty cool. Okay. I am really happy that we are all different, because I don't think I could work with somebody like me. I just know I couldn't work with myself. Okay.
There's a compliment in there somewhere, I'm sure.
So I don't know. So people who've worked with me and for me think that I'm the best thing ever. I just don't see it, because I think they're the best thing ever. So what I learned is that you don't do anything by yourself. Everything is in a team, especially in organizations. And I learned through my own personal journey of husband leaving, losing a
Mm.
job, being homeless, and then having to
Oh,
start from
wow.
scratch. I
Yeah.
learned, yeah, and then I had a near death experience too. I had a basal skull
Oh,
fracture. They said I was
no.
going to die, right? Well, I didn't
Wow.
die. Okay. It's like I said, no, that's too, I told the doctor when I could finally talk, no, that's too dramatic even for me. Okay. So,
Oh, wow.
so I didn't die. But in that, I learned that a group of people together, if you really like working with them and help them bring out their greatness and make them feel comfortable, that you can put together a pretty high performing team very
Mhm.
easily. So I've gone into companies where the employee engagement score was 1.0 out of 5, and when I left we were 5.0. So it's just
Mm.
something
Mm.
about working with people, getting them to tell me what it is they think we should do. And it happens with me because I ask, what problem are we trying to solve? You got to get
Mhm.
them on the same page, and then you got to build from there. So that I seem to be pretty good in doing. But remember, I'm the one that was homeless. I'm the one
Wow.
that lost a job. I'm the one that had the basal skull fracture. So I understand
Wow.
what it's like to start back over from nothing and to have all the emotions that you can deal with. So I was able to channel in there. I do help people a lot with unforgiveness is an issue. Another thing is even being grateful. People have a hard time with allowing themselves to be grateful for the lives that they have. And so I have a daily journal on my website that I actually had some people buy, and then they did the daily journal for 30 days and their lives changed tremendously because we
Wow.
spend too much time on what went wrong and not enough time with what did I learn from what went wrong and be grateful for that, and what went well for me today. Something goes well, and if you begin to expect things to go well for you, they will go well. And even if it seemed bad, but you learned what not to do, if nothing else, like Einstein says, I learned 1,000 ways not to create how not to create a light bulb. Eventually got the light bulb
Wow.
created. So you've
Good.
got to look at it like that. And then anger is another thing. I was always angry about something. So
Me right here too.
right. I was a teenage mom, so I had my pregnant at 14, kid at
Oh,
15.
wow. Mm.
Life wasn't right. Everything was wrong. I was always angry. And I learned that until you get angry, you don't do anything about it. I find we do our best work and we can get off the pot and finally go and prove us wrong when we think we're trying to prove other people wrong. And then we get up and we start to do something. So I help people through that anger stage and help them actually use the fuel from that as power to take their next positive steps and changing the life so that they can live the life that they want to live.
That is awesome. Yeah. I love, like I said, I went through, your entire website, and it's just a wealth of information. And I've talked about your website. So, for my audience here, let me put that on display it so y'all can see it and look it up for yourself. Ladies and gentlemen, as you can see there, it is champagneconnection.com. Champagneconnection.com. So, Stephanie, I'll let you do what if people click on your website there, what will they see? What are some services you have? Just overall.
So when you go to my website, of course, there is a banner where you sign in, and I send you. I so it
Yeah.
looks like it's just going to be a short little thing you're going to get. No, I'm going to play with you and talk to you over the next 7 days,
Oh,
and you're
wow.
going to get lessons every day. And one of the lessons deals with childhood memories because I have found it easy to get people to identify their problems if you start with money. So money is an energy, and generally how we spend our money will tell me a lot about what you're going through, a
Hmm.
lot about what you're angry about. I can see it in how you use your money. And usually that stems from childhood memories. So I have an exercise that you'll get that talks about and works through childhood memories. And after you do that, we go through a lot of other steps for things that you can do. So it's a bit of work, as you can know. It's a bit of work, but you have to remember, I'm the one that likes all that hard math and reading too. So it's going to be some work, but you will find out some things about yourself that you kept hidden. And since it's just you and the paper, you don't have to tell anybody. And then that way I help you work through those things. So, and also out there are the classes that other free gifts that you can have. So we just put up another funnel with what I call Trevor the Troll, because a lot of people don't know what their strengths are. So I have a cool little game that I use.
Oh, that's good. We like games.
Yeah, you go through and like Trevor, you have 100 values or things, and Trevor makes you go through 3 bridges, and you've got to give up 30 of them each time. But you get down to your core strengths, and that helps you. And then you'll find a SWOT analysis out there too, to where you can it's actually tailored toward the individual, so you can identify what your strengths are, what your weaknesses are, and those things are just nice to know. So when you're in any situation of what's going on, you know what you're strong at. So that's what you lean toward. And so you can, and your weaknesses aren't necessarily weaknesses as people think. They're just things that maybe you're not as good at as the strengths.
That's great. And like I said, ladies and gentlemen, I've looked at her website, and I will say it is a wealth of information. No matter what you're going through, whatever adversities you've got, you'll find all kinds of workshops and seminars. There's coaching. I can't say enough good about it. But in addition to the services you're providing, Stephanie, you have written a book. A very, very interesting book, looks like. So I'd like to talk about that. And ladies and gentlemen, I'll let you look at the cover yourself. Here is her new book. And I like the title. And the title is Creating a Masterpiece from a Master Mess. I thought, well, I've been a master mess lots of times, so I would probably benefit from this book as well. So, can you tell us about the book?
Yes, I can. So this book is actually my 4th book.
Your 4th one? Oh, okay.
My 4th one. And people actually ask all the time, what techniques did you use in order to go from being financially destitute to financially independent? And I always say that the best steps that you can take are ones that generally don't cost you any money, but they do cost you time, and they do cost you, they make you change who you are. So in the book, I talk about the importance of gratitude. I talk about steps of gratitude. I make gratitude so easy that you would want to do it. And then research has even shown, as I said earlier, that being grateful will actually increase your income by about 7%. And it increases your health. It lowers blood pressure. It improves diabetes. Gratitude is just a good thing to do. I talk about forgiveness, the same thing with forgiveness, and I give you techniques on how to forgive and how I use them. I talk about the importance of visualization, because a lot of us want to do things, but we don't spend any time with that dream. We want to accomplish something, so I talk about how you need to sit still first thing in the morning and actually see yourself doing it. Your mind is quiet then, so I actually think you should do your gratitude early in the morning too, so that you can be able to actually hear what you have to say before the 60,000 thoughts start to enter your mind.
When the day starts, the rush hour starts.
The rush hour starts, right. Then I talk about pity parties. We like to do a whole lot of they done me wrong stories. Everyone
feel sorry for me, right?
Feel sorry for me. Someone did me wrong. And I call them they done me wrong stories. And a lot of us are caught up in those they did me wrong stories. They did not do you wrong. A lot of things happen to us in a way to get our attention. This universe knows what needs to happen, how it needs to happen, so we will stop and think about it. So, and that's it. So your story is going to be different from mine. Unfortunately, I needed a cosmic 2x4. I tell you, don't need a cosmic 2x4 before you have to pay attention. Okay. So,
okay. That's good to know.
That's right. You know, it's like, take it the first time you get it and learn the lesson then, because it just keeps coming back and coming back and coming back. So the pity party, just stop with them. And if you're talk to people who like to call you with their pity parties, I
Mm-hmm.
have a rule for my friends. You can have 3 times to have a problem. After that, you need a new problem. Okay, because I don't do pity parties with you, and I'm not going to do them with myself either. And then you have to have a plan to succeed. So you have to have a list of what you, first off, what's the big plan? And then what are the steps every day you're going to take in order to accomplish that plan? And I talk about that.
Like
And
that.
in there, I give you examples and some research too. And that's how I did it. I,
Wow.
and none of that costs any money if you think about it. Doesn't cost me any money to be grateful, none to forgive, none visual to visualize, none to stop hosting pity parties, and none to plan to succeed. It's just things we can do every day. It does cost you time, but how are you using it anyway?
How are you using it? What's better? You mean
Like
you
what's
want
better? Yeah,
you don't want to be be positive. Get off the pity. What I
right,
call get off the pity pot. You
right.
know.
Get off the pity pot. And what I found when I started doing that, things began to happen for me. I didn't have to work so hard. Okay.
That's great.
One of the things is like I remember I always wanted to go to a Ivy League college, but parents didn't have that kind of income. I lived in the South. I was a teenage mom, so that wasn't allowed.
Mm-hmm.
And then, but that was something that I always saw myself doing. Then when I became an adult and then I was working, and it's like, God, there are $100,000. Who can do that,
Yeah.
right? And literally, the experience of going to an Ivy League college came to me as a gift.
Oh, that's great to hear.
But I always knew I was going to do that. And I would imagine myself doing it. And I'd have this little role playing. I'd practice my little speech. And one of the funny things is, one of the things that I did is I would imagine myself going across, graduating, getting my diploma, walking across the stage. And I would look at the diploma to make sure it had my name on it, right?
Sure.
Didn't think anything of that. When I graduated from the University of Chicago Executive MBA program, the picture they have of me is I was opening up my diploma to make sure to have my name on it.
Oh, wow.
So,
Right
be careful.
time. This is the right time.
So be careful how you visualize it.
Wow. That was strong. Wow.
Yes. But it has to be. You've got to be serious about the visualization. And remember, negative visualizations will happen too. So you can't see someone else falling off of a building or getting hit by a truck because you're mad.
Yeah.
Because technically, we are each other. We're not different. We just happen to have house different bodies and maybe different souls, but we're still all the same. So what you see for your brother, you are going to experience. So you need to start seeing good things for other people if you want to experience good things for yourself.
Absolutely. That is a wealth of knowledge. And I'm going to bring that book back, ladies and gentlemen, for those of you that might have just missed it. It's called Creating a Masterpiece from a Master Mess. And I love the title because I'm sure a lot of us, I'm sure everybody at one time has been a master mess. So
I definitely was. And it's available on Amazon if you can buy it through Amazon or any of the places you buy your books. If you want an autographed copy of book, you can buy it from my website, and then I'll autograph it and send it to you.
Wow. How long did that take you to write? Did it take you about a year, or was it a few months, or overall?
It took probably 6 months to write. And I wrote it as a result of people asking, because the books before dealt with other things, but people kept asking, what specifically did you do? So I wrote that book based on that. And then I also included some of the counseling sessions with clients that I've had in that book by their permission, but I changed the names to protect the innocent.
Of course.
So I even included some of that with some of the steps that I used too. And it took me about 6 months, maybe, to get it done. And then, the editing and all of that took a little while longer. And we got it to market, so.
And now I want to talk to my audience. You mentioned at the very beginning You mentioned champagne.
Yes.
But now, ladies and gentlemen, don't get too excited. We're not talking about the real champagne. Now, if you noticed, her website was Champagne Connection. There's also a shirt that she has that you can buy, and I'll read the logo to you, and then Stephanie, you can kind of explain what the metaphor
Okay.
is in it. And here's the shirt, ladies and gentlemen. And for those of you, if you can't see it too well on your iPhone, it's a shirt, and it says, "Life is too short to drink cheap champagne," which is true. So now, Stephanie, give us the insight into this.
So champagne is a metaphor for the kind of life you live. And life is just too short for you to live a bad life. I believe that we all have what we need right now, even though it seems hard for us to believe sometimes, but we've got everything we need right now to create a life that we dream about. As a matter of fact, I believe that we were placed here to create that life. And we have all the tools. So that's what that means. And that's why it's called a Champagne Connection. I try to connect you to the tools that you can use in order to have a better life and have the life that you dream about.
And don't sell yourself short. Don't drink cheap champagne.
Right. Don't. Yeah. We're not going to have any more of these mediocre lives. Everybody needs to have the life that they want to have, and you decide what's in it.
Now,
But no, you create it. So since we're creating our lives anyway, why aren't we creating the great things?
Now, this shirt that we're looking at, Stephanie, this is available to purchase, right? They can buy a shirt.
Yes, they can buy this shirt. So that shirt's available, and depending on the season, there's sweatshirts. There's actually a shirt for children that says "Sip into something inspirational."
Sip into something.
Sip into something inspirational, because I don't want kids with alcohol and liquor on their shirts, so that's for them. So, and it also comes in other sizes, because I have the Sip into something inspirational shirt too. And from time to time, we'll offer mugs and things like that too.
Tell us about some of your leadership training. I noticed on your website, like for example, you have diversity and inclusion, building high performance teams, lead, motivate, and inspire. So talk about some of your leadership training that you do.
So in the leadership training, what I like to do is start with dysfunctional teams. There's no such thing as a dysfunctional team, but sometimes executives and corporations believe that they have a dysfunctional team. Okay. And if you find any sort of dysfunction, it's just because you have not thoroughly identified your dreams or your desires to your team. Or you've done it, but you did it poorly. Okay. Sometimes managers, I find, speak languages that are straight out of the COO or CEO suite, as opposed to the language that the everyday person is doing. So I help teams get together, figure out what problems they're trying to solve. And then I have techniques that I use to make them comfortable in sharing how they think we can get there. One of the hardest things to do, though, is to keep the executive's mouth closed until after we do our work.
They like to do this,
huh? They like to do this, and they want to tell you how to do it. So, know-it-alls. I have penalty boxes for when they open their mouth.
You have a penalty box. Oh,
yeah,
I like
I have
that.
penalty boxes for when they open their mouth. It's like you're not allowed to play right now. And so we'll go through what's going on. We'll go through why they think will happen, and then I have a game, I guess, that I use where everyone gets to. So there's 6 different hats, and everyone wears a hat. So not one person so that way not one person comes along branded as the one person with the great ideas, and then no one's branded as that person. Is always so negative. So I make sure I draw out all of the good things, all of the negative things, what happened, what didn't happen, and then we sit down and we play another series of games to come up with the solution. And then I follow up with them to make sure that they're on track. So it's worked fairly well, and I will customize some things because sometimes there's a diversity problem, but I like to have fun ways to get people there. So all I am is really a facilitator helping you solve your own problem. You already know what it is, but just maybe you weren't in a safe space to say it. And a lot of times in diversity, people in our society now, it seems like we become more polarized than we were before. It's like we weren't this polarized when we weren't even trying to be diverse, but now that we're trying to be diverse, we're so polarized. So I help people get through that so that they can solve some of those problems too. So it's a
That's
fun
great.
day for them, but their scores end up improving. They end up with ways of saying things that are more comfortable for people to hear. Because sometimes it's just the language that we use. But in the
Sure.
diversity class, I even introduce the language that different people use, or even different genders use to people, so they're not offensive. People just don't know what they don't know.
I see. There's
Mhm.
also a workshop that I'm interested in too myself. And actually, the name of it is Me, Myself, and I, the Core Relationship. Is it, I mean, I'm just guessing, is it about looking out? I mean, should I say look
Yeah,
out for number one, or looking out for yourself, or not selling yourself short? How would you describe that?
it's a relationship that introduces you to yourself, literally. So I say me, myself, and I. That is our core relationship. That is the relationship that drives every other relationship that we have. A lot of times we think that what's driving the relationships are the other people we're in the relationship with, but that doesn't necessarily drive who we are. It just introduces us to who we are, but we want to blame that on the other people. So in here, I help you learn exactly who you are, why
Hmm.
you are that way, what your values are, what you don't like, which, because a lot of us just don't take time to figure that out. A
That's
lot of us
true.
we're so busy, and we think that to pay attention to self is selfish, but
Hmm.
remember, charity begins at home.
Yep.
And we think that we've got to always be so nice and meek to other people just to keep them around. So I help you figure out who you are, what you like, what you don't like, and then how to navigate the you are in the other relationships, so that you can get what you need and they can get what they need. And then if you decide that this relationship doesn't work, then you even have techniques in order to move on to the next relationship.
See.
It's a fun exercise. We have a lot of fun. We have a lot of fun in there. I've got some great games, and so I help you get down to your core values, which people don't know how to do. But like I said, I've got cool games for that. And then we do other exercises for you to see where it is you want to be and why you're stuck. And if there's a relationship that's making that stuck, so I give you techniques about that too. So actually, we're actually creating them together.
I see. Partners, you know.
Partners, right?
Well, let me ask you this: on your website, say that there's somebody who lives, across the country from you. I mean, states away from you.
How
Can
about other
you?
countries?
Oh, I was going to ask you. Can you do like Zoom with that person or other kinds
Yes,
of social media?
I can do Zoom, I do Google Meets, I can even do Microsoft
Wow,
Teams, we can do a personal StreamYard, however they want to meet is how we meet. We can do the telephone. I leave that up to them to decide, because sometimes people are in a time zone where they think, oh my God, I want to do it at 9 o'clock, but it's 9 o'clock your time. It's like, that's okay. We can do that. So I work the time out and the platform out. So I find that everyone now is accustomed to doing video. So before, that was a little difficult prior to going into COVID, except I had the pleasure of working with corporations who had been virtual for a while. So we could do that. So I can even do virtual training. And I think it's just as much fun, but sometimes in large groups, being in person is probably more fun. You can tell better jokes. They get
yeah,
your
sure.
jokes. They get your jokes better, right?
Right, if you're facing them face to face,
Right.
right?
Right.
So this website I've got up here, champagneconnection.com. That's how people can contact you,
They
make
can,
appointments, email you, inquire, kind of what
yes.
services. Okay.
Yeah, they as when you go in, you'll see a pop up, and you put the information there, and there's a way for you to put a note that you wanted to see me, and then I offer on the website a small amount of time, what I call a one shot, that you can actually sign up for. And then, other than that, there are other times too that you can book. And then on my Create the Life You Love uh, workshop, we do that individually, generally, because we experimented with doing it in groups, but people move at different paces. So I want the person to get all that they need to get so that when they're finished, they can live the better life. So we go through that, and we can do that virtually. I've done it even over just the telephone.
Okay, that's great.
Yeah.
Okay, that's perfect. Got a comment that happened a lot earlier, and you're talking about, people in general. I mean,
Hmm.
we get angry at people. We don't like to forgive people. This comment's slightly amusing, so I thought I would show this to you.
Okay.
Overbuilt Automotive says people like that are so aggravating to the point of punch to the face is where I get. But LOL, I know better. It will not fix a thing. That's right. You don't want to hit somebody.
You really don't. And remember, every interaction you have with someone says a lot about who you are too.
Mm-hmm.
So I always say when people are in your space to make you angry, they're your angels to show you your dark side. Every
Good
interaction
way to
you
say that.
have, right?
Uh-huh.
Every interaction you have with someone is to introduce you to yourself. So when people make you angry, you need to ask yourself, why are you angry? And you need to sit with that for a minute to determine what inside of me was upset by that, because they're talking about themselves. They're not talking about you. But sometimes we miss the lesson in that. And people can be aggravating. And
Mm-hmm.
I ask myself, why am I aggravated? This is not a point, because you can end the conversation, but some part of us wants to sit there and listen and hope we can reform them, but you can't reform everyone. So
No.
you've got to ask yourself, what are you experiencing? What is this telling me about myself? And when you ask those questions, then you'll literally find that those amount of interactions will begin to dissipate. So when I started asking myself the questions, why am I angry? Why am I aggravated? They're talking about that's them, that's not me. I don't need to own it. That's them. I find that I get fewer and fewer of those calls now.
That's
It's
great.
just amazing because I used it to work on me. Why am I upset? Because they're fussy. you
Yeah.
know,
I've
why?
always I've always heard the advice, and it doesn't work for me. I mean, I'll have to take your advice better. Like, why am I angry? I've always heard, we probably heard this since kids. If someone makes you angry, just take a deep breath and count to 10. Well, I have never had that work for me. When I count to 10, I'm just as angry as I was when I started at 1. So I don't know where that advice came from. So,
Well, that advice was meant to have you sort of distance yourself from it, to give you some time so that your brain can kick in. Because it does take us about 10 seconds before our brain can register that we don't really have to do anything about this. And you
I
have to
see.
remember that sometimes people need to hear themselves. And if you are considered a safe space for them,
Mm-hmm.
then you're going to find that you get a lot of that, because they just need to hear themselves. They need to hear the problem, because as they're talking, they're really working it out. So that's why you don't need
Mm.
to respond. Allow them to work it out because you're their safe space. And then afterwards, you can ask some questions like, what did you learn? What are you going to do differently the next time? And you'll find that that gives them something else to think about. So two things happen. Either one, you become a great counselor and then they're calling you a lot, or two is you've given them work they don't want to do, so they don't call you at all.
That's it. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Put it back on the other person.
Put it back on put the work back on the other person. You cannot do someone's work for them. But as people, we're just so nice. We just want to help them. You cannot fix another person. Give them the work and the tools. And sometimes people think you're the person that don't know what the tools are. So refer them to where you find tools. Give them some work to do,
Mm-hmm.
and they'll do it. And if they don't, they won't talk to you anymore.
That's it. Hey, it's a win-win situation.
Win-win, right?
But I like what you said. I like that advice, ladies and gentlemen, and I'm going to take that advice myself. Something happens, I get angry about it. I'll ask myself, why am I angry? Why did that make me angry?
Mm-hmm.
Was it worth my time? Was it worth, being tensed up about
Right,
that?
right.
I
And
like that.
one question I ask people when they call to dump on you is, what has become clear to you? And they don't know. So they want to hang up the phone.
Yeah. The silence, right?
Besides, I says, what has become clear to you? Because there's nothing you can do to change it. It happened already. It's in the past. Going forward, what has become clear to you, and what are you going to do differently?
Sure.
And you ask those questions, and you'll be surprised. People will not call you unless they're serious about changing.
That's true. In fact, Gary talking about, counting to 10, decompressing, Gary had a good comment here in the live audience. Taking time keeps you from doing something you will regret later. And not just the physical, getting physical, but maybe, unfortunately, we're creatures of habit. When we're angry, we say something at the spur of the moment. And I mean, it's like the inferno now. When we're angry, the mouth runs, and then later on we're like, why did I say that? That made the situation much worse.
And in those instances, you need to ask yourself too, because you did say it, was it, and you said it like that because you really meant to say something times and times and times ago, and you didn't.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
You held it back. Mm-hmm.
Held it back. And it's going to come out. So it comes out. So you have to ask yourself, what about what you think about the situation of the person that keeps you from saying what you need to say? Because when you think about it that way, then you can find a constructive way to say it. And
That's true.
I have found just asking people what has become clear to you, because it doesn't matter what's clear to me. That doesn't help them with their situation at all. What's become clear to you? And what are you going to do differently? And that gives them something to think about. You've sent them off with two powerful questions, and they'll either change or they won't change. And if they call me, they get 3 times with the same problem. After that, I say, nah, you like this because you keep doing this.
You stew in it, basically.
Right. So you like this. So you need to come with a new problem. And that's my rule. All my friends know that. People call me, they know that. They say, I had to make sure this was a new problem. I says, yes, this has to be a new problem because we've talked that other problem to death. We're not doing that again.
So pretty much like baseball, 3 strikes and you're out.
3 strikes and you're out, right.
Oh, well, Stephanie, it's been a wonderful interview, but I do want to promote your products again. Ladies and gentlemen,
Okay.
Highly recommend you go to the website. I have it up right now as we speak, and it's just a wealth of information. So whatever adversity that you're going through right now, if you need any kind of coaching, anger issues, stress, anxiety, and then, of course, the ever one that we all struggle with is forgiving.
Right.
Even when the person has not said they're sorry, they don't act like they're sorry, we still have to let it go, as hard as that is.
They do not have to say they're sorry, and they do not have to act like they're sorry. That is not a requirement, and that's what we look for. And that's just not necessary.
Sure.
You have to forgive. So one thing that people can do right now is write down the things that you need to forgive that you find difficult in forgiving, or the things you're angry about.
That's a good point. Yes, write it down.
Write them down, and then have your own what I call a burning bowl ceremony. Okay, take that piece of paper, go to a safe place, and light that paper with fire and watch it burn. Okay, it is the most incredible feeling you've ever had.
Just relief.
It's relief. And if you don't want to burn it, fold it up, put it in the middle of one of your favorite books, and just let it go. And the fire is really powerful. You'll be able to release some of it. That's some action, you can see it go, and you have forgiven it. And if it comes back up, because it will sometimes, remind yourself that you have forgiven it. And sometimes we have to remind ourselves. Just remind yourself, I have already forgiven that.
It's a non-issue now.
It's a non-issue because it's taking up space in your mind, and the good things that need to happen or that you need to think about to change your life or to do that next best thing or project can't get in because that door is closed. You have got to let it go.
Absolutely. I mean, that's good advice, and that's advice for me. I mean, I have to say, there's still little elements up there that sometimes creeps in. It's almost like the old VCR You
Mm-hmm.
play it, and then you rewind it, and then you play it again. Then you rewind it,
Right.
and you watch that
Right.
same scene
Right.
again. So, yeah, I got to throw that VCR tape away.
Have to throw that tape away. And I have a list of things that I will do if I find myself ruminating like that. So I'm
Okay.
prepared. I have a list of things I'm going to do. So one of them is I like to read. So I've got books ready to read when that
Sure.
happens. It's like, okay, I need to read a book because I'm obviously stuck over here. So let's get unstuck. Or I write something. So you have to have a list of something that you can do when
True.
that happens. Because if you don't, you're just going to keep ruminating and you're going to keep creating that stuff. And then your blood pressure is high, or your insulin level is high,
Ulcers,
or your ulcers, you can't sleep. And that person is all having a happy life. Don't remember they hurt your
They
feelings.
don't care.
They
Yeah.
don't even know they did it.
Yeah. Most time they don't.
They don't know they did it, right? They thought it was over and taken care of.
Well, in addition, ladies and gentlemen, like I told you about her website, champagneconnection.com, she has recently written a very interesting book. I'm looking forward to reading it myself. Again, it's called Creating a Masterpiece from a Master Mess. And I think I can say that everybody watching, me including, has been a master mess at one time. So I think this will be a very, very interesting and I think it sounds like it would be a healing book too for those that's been struggling with some issues and adversity in their lives.
Yes, it is. I've got a lot of the techniques that I used in my life to get over some things. And I'm glad to say that it's been years since I've actually when I think about what happened, the pain isn't there. So I don't want you to think that you just forget about the experience.
Mm-hmm.
It's just that the pain and the sadness is not there. And you will get to a point where you understand that situation needed to happen because
Mm-hmm.
that was the only way the universe could get you where it needed you to be so you could have the life that you were supposed to live.
Absolutely. Great advice.
Yeah.
Well, Stephanie, I am very glad you were on the show tonight to share your expertise and your knowledge. And it's a teaching moment, I think, for all of us. And again, ladies and gentlemen, you can find out more to go to her website, champagneconnection.com. You can contact her through the website. Mm-hmm. And again, on your book, you said it was available through Amazon.
Yes, and it's on all of the Amazon. It's on Barnes and Noble. So any place you buy the book, and it's available through Audible on Amazon too. So if you like to listen to your books, you have that option.
That's great. Well, Stephanie, again, I appreciate all that you're doing to help people because we know we're all going through adversity and some people worse than others. So thank you for sharing your knowledge tonight and your expertise, and we'd love to have you back on the show again.
I'd love to be back. In the meantime, I just want to remind everybody to trust their greatness.
Absolutely. Thank you, Stephanie. Have a good night.
You too. Bye now.
And ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it all for tonight's episode of the Van Buren Variety Show. Again, Bob Van Buren, your host. As a reminder, I'm here each week, once a week, mostly on Tuesdays at 7 p.m. Central Time and 8 p.m. Eastern Time. So hopefully you'll be back next week. And again, if you haven't subscribed yet, if you're brand new and you like what you've seen, make sure you hit that subscribe button. You'll see it somewhere. And also, if you like tonight's guest and you like tonight's topic, there is a like button. So make sure you hit that like button. I'm sure our guests would appreciate that. And again, make sure you go to Stephanie's website, champagneconnection.com, and also read her interesting book as well. So it's something I believe that we can all benefit from. So that's all for me tonight, ladies and gentlemen. I appreciate you staying with me, and I will see you next week with another interesting guest with an equally interesting topic. And this is Bob Van Buren for the Van Buren Variety Show. I'll see you soon. Good night, everybody.